The two stood facing each other in the midst of the chaotic battlefield. Leonora still maintained her fake smile, saying, "Just as I predicted, Midu, well, I'm quite sure not many people in this country can avoid my attacks like that." Midu didn't answer, his eyes turned cold, thinking to himself, no matter how hard I try to avoid her attacks, at that distance, it's just a one-sided battle, I have to find a way to defeat her from that distance, or find a way to get closer. He quickly glanced towards his teammates, his eyes gleaming with calculation because our divine protection doesn't work and everyone can't help me, furthermore, long-range attacks are Leonora's strength. The aura around him surged violently. Midu, with a determined gaze, murmured to himself, "I have no other choice but to approach her with force, even faster than before." Leonora was slightly taken aback, she had sensed a powerful aura from Midu. Without hesitation, Midu immediately charged forward, seeing him approach. She executes the power of the wind, raising her hand to summon wind spears. The whistling wind spears appear, rushing in like a storm. Midu dashes like lightning, ripping through the air in an instant. Leonora quickly puts her hand on the ground. She puts all her strength into shouting, "Sink." While dashing, Midu pauses, as if something is strongly pulling at his feet. He is startled and panicked, his face showing extreme confusion. She doesn't stop, continuing to execute fire magic. Moments later, a flame erupts in her hand. Leonora shoots the flame towards Midu, the flame engulfs him, burning him and causing him to writhe in pain. Rina shouts in a panic, "Midu." Leonora sighs softly, silently assessing, until this moment, he is trying to concentrate all the strength in his body, and now at the same time, he wants to use it to attack me. What a terrifying talent. Midu lies still, his body covered in blood. Leonora can't hide her satisfaction, saying quietly, however, "Until now, I'm still better than you." On the other side, Erasure is still facing Gaius. He is a little worried at this moment, thinking that he can't use the punch anymore. How can he defeat him? How can I defeat him? Gaius doesn't give him any more time, grabs his sword and rushes in, shouting, "Are you hesitating? I can tell by your face, you brat." Finishing his sentence, he swings his sword down, blood splattering. Erasure couldn't avoid it in time, getting hit and screaming in pain. He grits his teeth and looks at him, angrily thinking, how could I end up like this with an old man like him? Gaius points his sword at Arashi's shoulder, his voice sarcastic, "Well, you're just an amateur, aren't you? This is what happens when you can't use your guardian." Arashi's eyes gradually become empty, past memories flood back. This is not who he is. He clenches his fists, muttering to himself, "I don't need the power of the explosion just to show him how strong I am." Erasure takes a deep breath and struggles to stand up slowly. Gaius is stunned. "How are you still standing?" He grits his teeth, enduring the sword pressing into his flesh, his eyes blazing with rage. Gaius exclaims in terror, "What the hell?" Erasure clenches his fist and strikes. He throws a punch as if it were sent from the heavens, straight into his face. Gaius couldn't react in time, being knocked away like a kite with a broken string. He falls hard to the ground, blood gushing out like a stream. Erasure walks over, his eyes cold, saying, "I win, you bastard." On the other side, Midu is still lying still on the ground, muttering, "It can't be like this." In his head, images of his friends keep appearing, urging him, "It can't be like this, I have to protect everyone." A surge of power suddenly arises, he stands up, his eyes shining brightly, muttering to himself, "My friends are suffering, I don't want to see them like that." Leonora raises an eyebrow, her voice laced with sarcasm, Oh, that's great, isn't it? You're still holding on." Midu clenches his sword tightly, his eyes sharp, "Come on." Leonora laughs contemptuously, "No matter how hard you try, you can't get close." Without another word, Midu rushes in like the wind. Leonora furrows her brows, realizing he is closing in. Midu without hesitation swings his sword to slash. Leonora manages to dodge, but is still cut on the arm. She cries out, "That." Looking down at the flowing blood, she grits her teeth, silently thinking, "Did I forget to be careful? No, that's not it." Before she could collect herself, Midu appears behind her. Leonora notices in time. Instantly turned around to execute a stone spell. Stone pillars shot up to block in front, impeding his attack. She quickly retreated, a slightly flustered look on her face. Thinking something was very different. Looking at him in front, she paused. "It's not that I didn't prepare." He closed the distance almost instantly. Although worried, she still smiled lightly and said suggestively, "So it's the earth-shrinking skill. When you receive the power of desire, it means that God also loves you." Midu, full of color, shouted, "I just wish I had a power that could help me protect everyone." With that, he rushed in, his sword pointing straight at her. Leonora still calmly replied coldly, "Even so, it's still not enough for you to touch me." Right after that, she executed a domination spell. The pressure pressed down hard, causing Midu to collapse, moaning, "I can't move." Leonora curled her lips, her voice ominous. "I didn't intend to use it, but you gave me no other choice." From afar, Kai saw the unstable situation. Then said, "The trump card has appeared." He solemnly ordered decisively, "Right now, Kanzaki, start going." Leonora calmly clasped her hands and watched Midu being surrounded by the magic circle she created. Leonora's face smiled, her cold voice rang out, "I never thought I would have to use the enslavement spell, just as predicted, Midu-san." At this time, Midu clenched his teeth tightly, lying and struggling. "Damn it!" From behind, Rina saw him being controlled and ran over. Shuji Mirai called out his name in worry, "Midukun." Suddenly Leonora spoke and ordered, "Everyone stop." A source of power enveloped everyone's bodies, making them stand still. Narumi turned to look with a worried expression, sweating profusely, "I can't move." Leonora stood watching the group of people who couldn't move. Then compliments, "You all did a good job, I will let you pass the subject," then said. Leonora turned and left. Looking at the man lying sprawled on the ground, Leonora spoke, "I never thought Gaius would lose, it's just that, even though he is a knight, he can still be replaced." Leonora smiled, happily saying, "As long as I can still control the hero candidates, there will be no problem at all." Everyone looked at Leonora, their eyes filled with anger. Narumi gritted her teeth, it was a loss from the beginning, damn it. Midu opened his eyes wide, thinking, if we don't have a way to deal with it, we can't do anything. Those around are all controlled by Leonora. She just clasped her hands and watched. "The reason I am allowed to summon the hero candidates is because at some point I can easily control you, if not you will become a threat to the Empire, won't you?" Suddenly from afar there were knives flying straight towards them. Seeing this, Leonora quickly summoned a wooden shield to support them, natural wood. The knives fell to the ground, covered in mud as the wood melted. Leonora closed her eyes, saying to the person in the distance, "I know you've been hiding all this time, you're the one who killed my cute slaves." "That's right, Leonora." The man walked over with murderous intent. Leonora called out, "Shinju-san." Shinju suddenly spoke. "I'm surprised, I didn't expect you to pay attention to someone as ordinary as me." Leonora calmly replied, "From the beginning, I saw you were very, although it's just a useless god-guardian ability, but you are always calm, that is not the quality of an amateur." Shinju listened to Leonora coldly. "To be honest, I'm a little disappointed in you, I can't believe you would appear in an unwinnable battle like this." Suddenly, Shinju's eyes became sharp, resolute. "Whether this battle is won or not is up to me to decide." Hearing that, Leonora immediately laughed, "Then show me." Like others, a ray of light immediately enveloped Shinju. His face was full of astonishment. Unable to move, Shinju looked at the magic being executed on him as if he understood something. "I understand." It covered from his hand. Then to Shinju's feet, "So this is the enslavement spell." Leonora raised her hand and executed with a smile, "Now you understand, don't you? As long as I use this kind of spell, I will." Suddenly, blood splattered everywhere. Leonora was in pain, her hand holding her shot shoulder. "What?" From afar, smoke from the gun was rising. "So it's Shinju," he replied coldly, "looks like I missed, just as expected from the Saintess." Leonora was furious to see that Shinju was not controlled. How can you still move? It's clear that I've used the enslavement magic." Shinju pulled the trigger again. This time, the bullet went directly into Leonora's stomach. Leonora screamed in pain. Leonora looked at the gun in Shinju's hand, couldn't help but be curious. What kind of weapon is that? Leonora thought to herself, I can't defend against it. Shinju explained coldly, "This is the tool that kills the most people in my world. I only have a few bullets left, so I really don't want to use them all." Leonora summoned a flame, thought to herself, "Calm down, I don't know why the magic isn't working," but this time Leonora shouted, "Heavenly fire." Shinju was caught off guard when he saw the fire rushing towards him and was stunned. The burning flames were rushing towards Shinju, he could only cover his face. "Burn my enemies." Leonora smiled triumphantly, "You're off guard, Shinju-sama." Suddenly Leonora was surprised. Leonora realized that there was no one in the flames. Only his cloak was burning. Suddenly, a sound came from behind Leonora. At this moment Shinju had ambushed Leonora from behind. He pointed the gun directly at Leonora's head. "Don't move." He gently pointed out the weakness. "Just by observing her battle with Midu, I knew she wasn't suited for close combat. Her trump card, the enslavement magic, doesn't work on me." Leonora looked dissatisfied. "Why, my magic is unstoppable." Shinju said with a smile, "I thought so too. I don't understand why it doesn't work on me." Then he thought to himself, in reality, this was a risky move, betting whether it would work or not. In the end, I won this bet. Shinju then remembered him calling the name of a person Kenzaki. Shinju pointed at himself, suggesting, face pleading, first of all, dominate me. The girl named Kenzaki, terrified, backed into the door, looking at Shinju. Zaki's face was so panicked that it turned red, she shouted. Kenzaki turned her face away in embarrassment, sweating profusely. Actually, that's not my preference, Shinju asked, confused, what are you talking about? Shinju told Kenzaki that he had discovered something. Lately I've spent time researching magic. I still haven't found any information about enslavement magic, but in return, I've found something important. Shinju elaborated on the skill. The skill used first will be prioritized over the skill used later. Kenzaki couldn't help but panic. Could it be that if I use the domination magic on you, it will neutralize the enslavement magic? Shinju calmly replied, that possibility could happen. Furthermore, the divine protection ability is still much stronger than magic. Kenzaki put her hand on her chin, worriedly asked, is that right? But my skill is much weaker than her enslavement magic. Shinju calmly said, if we're talking technically, it's all decided by the level. Shinju looked at the data he had and thought to himself, name, Kenzaki Rin, age, 17, gender, female, attack, C, defense, D, agility, D, strength, E, magic, B, status, normal, skill, divine protection domination level 1, use Kenzaki's level 1 domination to counter Leonora's level 3 enslavement magic, name, Leonora Digaris, age, 18, gender female, attack, A, defense, D, agility, D, strength, E, magic, S, status, normal, skills, summoning magic level 5, divine protection holy level 5, all magic. Attributes level 4, enslavement magic level 3. Kenzaki thought deeply after listening. Even so, if I use my skill first, I could still lose control of my master. Shinju raised his hand to explain, the possibility of that is very low. Shinju remembered the time facing Steady. Steady laughed loudly and said, it's useless. Shinju spoke up, Steady's domination magic was superior to his. Steady smiled mischievously and ordered, wake up, my demons. Shinju continued, at that moment, I thought the demons would obey his commands, but I was wrong. At that moment Kenzaki's face was terrified and stammered. Why? Shinju's eyes were cold and explained, simply put, his magic was used before you used your skill. Shinju pointed out how to neutralize Leonora's magic, to counter Leonora's enslavement magic, the same principle might work. Back in reality, Shinju with a determined look, it's really a gamble, Shinju thought to himself, first of all, in a dominated state, how far can I move? Really? Leonora wondered suspiciously, don't tell me Kenzaki-sama has. Shinju pressed the gun to Leonora's head, so you finally realized it, huh? Shinju looked at her coldly, you're right, I'm currently under Kenzaki's domination. Leonora was furious to hear that, gritted her teeth, your tricks are so lowly. Then he looked at her and declared, it's over, Saintess Leonora. Shinju raised his hand and pulled the trigger of the gun in his hand. Leonora was shot in the stomach, immediately fell to her knees on the ground, and cried out in pain. Leonora turned around with an uncomfortable expression. The handcuffs thought, my abilities are being blocked by these handcuffs, since when were Leonora's hands held by the iron handcuffs? Shinju explained, I borrowed it from the devil's followers. Then he remembered a girl's words, no, these handcuffs are preventing me from using my abilities, but now I'm back to normal, calm expression. Shinju's eyes showed no fear, it seems they also block your skills. Leonora looked at him with half an eye, it exuded extreme danger, what are you going to do with me? Then Shinju waved his hand, his voice was cold, let's see, I'll release you if you send us back to our world. Leonora shook her head in refusal, I am sorry, that is impossible, I can only summon you to return to the old world, which requires a different skill. Shinju's face became pensive, he thought she didn't seem to be lying, and her records didn't mention any skills either. Shinju turned to question, then why did you say we could return after defeating the Demon King? Leonora recalled the chaotic scene back then. Summoning people from another world required a lot of energy. I begged the Lord to help me successfully summon you. Everyone was unsealed at this time. They were surprised to hear Leonora's explanation. You were summoned here according to the Lord's will, and after completing the mission, it is very likely that you will return to where you belong. Shinju asked suspiciously, we can return, are you sure that is possible? Leonora immediately retorted, yes, I have summoned many hero candidates before you, but no one could get close to the Demon King. Shinju's face was full of surprise, he frowned, I have never heard you mention them, what happened to the previous hero candidates? Everyone broke out in a sweat, Leonora replied, most of them were killed by the Demon King's army, a few survived and went somewhere, but I don't know where they are hiding. Shinju closed his eyes, he seemed to understand everything, hearing these words, who wouldn't lose motivation, that's why she didn't say anything until now. Leonora frowned, so you want to stay here forever, sooner or later, the Demon King's army will attack and you will have to fight against them. Shinju's eyes were cold, so we have no other choice. Leonora seemed to seize the opportunity to be released. Right, if you want to win this battle, you need the kingdom's help, right? I will let this go, let me go. Shinju held the knife, intending to throw it at Leonora. I understand, die. Suddenly Midu came from somewhere. He put his hand on him to stop him. Wait. Shinju turned to look at Midu questioningly. Why are you stopping me, Midu? I thought you had thought it through, but you still cling to your naive ideals. Midu's face showed certainty, his eyes were firm. I agree to follow because I believe she knows how to help us return. Now that is impossible, but I still want to keep the title of hero candidate. Shinju's face was expressionless, he still held the knife tightly in his hand. We have started a rebellion, have you forgotten? Shinju realized Midu was right, his hand holding the knife, about to throw it at Leonora, suddenly stopped. Leonora's face was pitiful, she immediately begged, I admit I was a bit excessive, let's pretend nothing happened. Shinju looked at Midu's hand on his shoulder, and thought, that sounds reasonable, but he reminded her that she was very dangerous, it wouldn't be easy to catch her a second time. Shinju's eyes glanced slightly towards Kanzaki, and thought, she just needs to kill Kanzaki, most likely after being released, she will attack Kanzaki. Midu spoke to persuade, if we kill her, we will be accused of killing the saint, just make her promise to treat us better and let her go. Mireille also agreed with Midu's opinion, I agree, not all of us are warriors, moreover, if we become criminals, how can we defeat the Demon King? Rina's eyes avoided, speaking up, I also agree, wouldn't it be better to find a way to make her keep her promise? Narumi's face was a little scared, no, I agree with Shinju, we cannot trust her, we have gone this far, it's better to get rid of her. Midu turned to immediately object, his eyes full of determination, actually I think so too, but we will have no way back if we kill her here. Shinju coldly glanced at Midu, thinking, Midu's worry is understandable, the safety of the entire class is important to him, I am confident I can survive, but I cannot make a reckless decision. Suddenly he frowned, alone. A gunshot rang out, blood splattered, Shinju had pulled the trigger. The gun barrel was aimed at Leonora's head, the bullet was right in Leonora's brain, she only had time to cry out. Midu witnessed the scene in front of him, shouted, what? Leonora's head was covered in blood, she fell to the ground, she took her last breaths. Everyone present couldn't help but be stunned, Midu was angry. He shouted your name, Shinju. A smoke bomb was thrown. Shinju stood in the dense smoke, seeing you again, Midu. Midu covered his face with his hands to avoid the power of the smoke when it disappeared. When it dissipated, all that remained was a pile of white smoke. Midu stood there looking bewildered. Then he knelt down in anger, damn it, why? Mireille walked to Midu, clenching Kai's bitter hand, he killed her before we decided, unforgivable. Rina's eyes flashed with resentment, he always only thought of himself. Narumi frowned, stunned, Shinju, you really? Kanzaki walked to Leonora's corpse. Her eyes were a little scared, Kanzaki couldn't believe his eyes, he was frightened in his heart, couldn't believe he had killed her, everything happened exactly as he said, she remembered before going out to fight, Shinju called Kanzaki. Then Kanzaki turned and wondered, and then Shinju spoke, I will tell you what will happen next. Kanzaki looked at the crowd and continued to explain, our main purpose was to kidnap Leonora and learn from her how to return to the real world. His voice was cold, if we find out she can't do it, we'll kill her. Kanzaki's eyes flashed with fear, okay, I understand. Shinju looked at Midu, who was fighting hard, his voice filled with bitterness, however, if he knew we had no way to return to our world, Midu would still protect her. Shinju's eyes were cold, his voice was cold, at that moment, I'll kill her and run away. Kanzaki was doubtful after hearing the plan, she opened her eyes wide, just you alone will take the blame for killing her. Shinju immediately explained, that's why I let some soldiers escape, so they could spread the word that I was the mastermind, if they consider me the culprit, it won't be a problem for you to return. Kanzaki was a little worried, asking if everything would go smoothly. Shinju turned, his face full of confidence, that's when your power will be useful, if anything happens, use your dominance to negotiate with the kingdom. Kanzaki wondered, what about you? Shinju reassured, I can handle it myself, don't worry. Back in reality, Kanzaki couldn't help but worry. She looked up at the sky and whispered, Shinju. The moonlight and the night sky were red tonight. It cast its shadow on the castle, making it look eerie. It was strangely terrifying. In the palace, a man gave a devilish smile, hero candidates, the wanderers from another world are blessed by the Lord. On the red carpet, a man respectfully replied, yes, we have tried many times to eliminate them, but failed. The man sitting on the chair reassured, don't worry, what we can do in enemy territory is still limited, let's leave them alone, sooner or later they will appear. He gave a devilish smile, let's leave them alone, sooner or later they will appear, but things are getting more and more interesting. In the forest, where the sunlight shines down, Shinju is walking. He walked step by step through one road to another. Shinju scooped up a mouthful of spring water to drink. Then he looked up and thought to himself, 2 days have passed since that event, according to the map, I'm very close to a city. Shinju looked towards the distant mountain, pondering whether he should climb to a higher position. Then Shinju quickly conquered the mountain, he stood on the summit and looked down. Shinju saw a small city surrounded by walls, found it will probably take half a day to walk there. In the evening, when the moonlight shines down on the city, creating a peaceful scene, Shinju walked in the grass, thinking it's late, it should be fine. He looked at the city gate in front of him, thinking that a criminal who killed a saint cannot enter the city through the main gate. In the dark, an anchor was hooked onto the wall. Shinju held onto the rope to get over because he didn't know how he would be treated. He landed easily, his footsteps were weaving through the city. Shinju looked around, thinking okay, first I have to make money. As he walked, Shinju was tossing the money bag in his hand, thinking that the money he got from the soldiers he killed was not enough. Suddenly, Shinju's eyes were drawn to a place where a sound was coming from. Shinju looked at the sign, thinking, a pub, a good place to make money. Inside the pub, people were gathering, laughing and talking happily. Seeing a customer enter, the owner asked, hello, what would you like to order? It was Shinju. He walked into the pub, his eyes were a little cautious and he put his things on the chair. Sitting at the table, Shinju bowed his head and ordered, a beer and some food. The man sitting next to him saw that he was unfamiliar and asked, I've never seen you before, are you a traveler? Shinju immediately made up a reason, yes, I was forced to leave my homeland, I'm looking for a job. The man was moved when he heard Shinju's situation, and he cried, are you escaping from the invasion of the Demon Lord's army? I'm so sorry. He glanced at the man, thinking, misunderstanding is also good. Shinju took the opportunity to ask the man, do you know of any jobs around here that don't require identification? The owner brought out the beer and replied, in that case, I think you should become an adventurer, here's your beer. Shinju took the beer and exclaimed, an adventurer, what kind of work will an adventurer do? The owner happily described the job, you can take any job that is available from the guild, usually it will be conquering demonic beasts. The drunk man immediately chimed in, hey owner, if he lacks skills, he will be killed immediately, you know. I could tell just by looking that this guy wasn't inexperienced. Then he turned to Shinju and said, are you sure? Well, he is alone. He took a sip of beer and said, if it's a demonic beast, I can handle it. Suddenly, Shinju looked at the owner and asked, so, how do I become an adventurer? The owner stirred the soup and said, it's simple, you just need to go to the guild in the middle of the city center and register. They're in desperate need of new adventurers, so they won't ask for your identity. Shinju teased lightly, you know a lot, boss. Then the owner happily explained, I used to be an adventurer myself, but I got a knee injury and decided to retire. He brought the food out and placed it on the table, here's your food. The next morning, when the sun had reached its peak, the sunlight shone into the window. Shinju sat on the bed with a sleepy voice, it's morning already. He started changing clothes, and after changing, Shinju went downstairs and spoke to the receptionist, thank you for letting me stay at this inn on such short notice, I'll probably be staying here a bit longer. The girl smiled brightly, thank you for your patronage. Shinju walked out of the inn, thinking to himself, after seeing my face, she didn't react at all. He then reassured himself, anyway, there are no image recording devices in this world. I don't need to be overly cautious either. A moment later, Shinju arrived in front of a place with a shield symbol. He looked up and wondered, is this the guild for adventurers? Shinju swung the door open and stepped inside. People in the guild were talking and laughing cheerfully. Some people were studying the quest maps. Shinju looked at a place with a girl in a blue dress and thought to himself, I think that's the receptionist. Shinju didn't hesitate and went to the receptionist. I want to register as an adventurer. The receptionist replied, yes, you need to pay 1 silver coin to register, is that okay? He immediately placed a coin on the table, I understand. The receptionist began to ask for Shinju's information, please let us know your name, age, and origin. He thought to himself that he couldn't use his real name. Shinju then made up another name. Siren, 17 years old, the Demon Lord's army invaded my homeland and I drifted to this place. The receptionist smiled, I understand, we'll register you with that information. Shinju thought in surprise, unbelievable, the alias I used in the real world is being used here, he replied, yes, thank you. Then the receptionist stamped a red seal and explained, with this, you have completed the registration process. The receptionist pointed up, and the girl happily presented everything bit by bit. Furthermore, I want to explain to you about the system used by the guild. The receptionist continued to explain, based on their achievements, adventurers are divided from rank A to F, A, senior adventurers, B, leaders of the guild branches, C, excellent adventurers, D, general adventurers, E, official adventurers, F, apprentice adventurers, and those new to the profession. Of course, the higher the rank, the more valuable the rewards. In addition, senior adventurers can also receive difficult missions. Shinju listened to everything, and the receptionist continued, because Siren-sama is still new, you will be registered as a rank F adventurer, you can level up by completing missions. Then she gestured towards the information board in the corner of the room. All the missions are posted on the information board there. I recommend you choose a rank F mission as your first mission. Shinju looked in the direction of her hand. I understand. He went to the information board to find a mission. Shinju looked at the mission in front of him and thought to himself, rank F mission is to collect herbs and eliminate goblins. He took the mission in surprise. Goblins, I've never seen this type of demonic beast before, I'll probably take this one. Suddenly a voice rang out, hey, 3 men came from somewhere, their faces full of contempt. I've never seen your face before, kid, you're going to take on some goblins, I advise you to stop, that's impossible for a kid like you. Shinju looked at the people in front of him, grinding his teeth in anger. Who are these idiots? Kai stood watching those young men, his face clearly showing discomfort. Thank you for the warning, could you please leave me alone? Feeling insulted, the young men looked annoyed and shouted, thank you for the warning, you're too arrogant, kid. Everyone around seemed to be too familiar with this. They kept whispering, those guys are at it again, picking a fight with a newbie, they never learn. The one-eyed young man shouted, kid, you need to be taught a lesson. He raised his hand, intending to strike. Hey, immediately, Kai grabbed his hand and held it tightly. The one-eyed man's eyes widened in surprise. Kai's gaze was full of murderous intent. He yelled, you bastard, let me go. Kai still held the one-eyed man's arm. This made him panic and cry for help from his comrades. What's wrong with this guy? Teach him a lesson. The other two immediately jumped up to attack from two sides. All right. Kai seemed quite indifferent to the opponent's attacks, his eyes didn't waver at all. Without knowing when, the 3 thugs had been defeated and were lying on the ground, while Kai left with a piece of paper, to the astonishment of everyone. As he walked, he thought. So this is the ability of an intermediate-level adventurer, compared to hero candidates, they're surprisingly weak. Stepping out of the bar, Kai muttered to himself, all right, let's quickly complete this mission. In a moment, Kai was already in the forest. He moved quickly between the trees. Observing his surroundings, Kai speculated, based on the information of this mission, that the demonic goblins were lurking around here. He noticed on the ground. There were animal footprints, these footprints were still fresh. The footprints led straight into the bushes. They were going in this direction, it seemed to be animal footprints. Kai followed the footprints into the bushes. His intuition told him that something was here and it wasn't alone. He could feel the presence of demonic beasts around, they were hiding very well. Were they demonic goblins? A large dog-like creature appeared right behind Kai, its eyes were empty and drooling, in its hand was a large sword covered in blood. It lunged to attack Kai, luckily he was able to sense it in time and dodged the attack. Looking at the sword in the monster's hand, he guessed that the sword had been stolen from humans. Another monster appeared and attacked Kai, he nimbly dodged the attacks, then conveniently grabbed a handful of dirt, he threw it in the face of the monster to distract it. The monster with the sword was about to attack from behind. He immediately kicked it in the face, causing it to fall to the ground. Taking the sword from the monster, Kai didn't hesitate to finish it off. The one behind saw this and froze. Not wanting to waste time, Kai threw 2 knives at it. The mythical beast howled in pain, both were handled neatly. The appraisal ability was immediately activated. Good, appraisal ability. Information of the 2 mythical beasts immediately appeared. Name, demonic goblin, age, 22, gender, male, attack, defense, not very agile, D strength, D magic, status, dead, skill, evasion level 1. I think this type of demonic beast isn't harmful to me, I think I can hunt more and earn a little more money. After a while of hunting, Kai stood in front of the trading counter. On the table was a pile of monster ears. He had hunted, Kai said. These ears are proof that I defeated them, is that enough? The staff member looked incredibly surprised. Yes, but how many were there? Did you really do this alone? He casually replied, that's right, hunting them is easy, but finding them took me quite a while. It seems Kai only has difficulty finding the monsters, even though he has enough skills to fight them, his exploration skills are still limited, being an adventurer is quite complicated, isn't it? The crowd around was constantly chatting, did he hunt the demonic goblins so easily, could he be a C-rank adventurer from somewhere else, it said he's still a newbie, a newbie. The staff member hurriedly excused herself, I understand, I must prepare the reward, please wait a moment. Under the sky. Kai continuously tossed the money bag up. He seemed quite satisfied with this money. How much money can I make just by killing weak demonic beasts from now on? The important thing is to ensure living expenses. I will stay in this city for a while and earn money as an adventurer. Kai put the money bag away, and thought to himself, if I build good relationships in the guild, gathering information will be easier. Suddenly he paused, A large man blocked Kai's path. He looked at him cautiously, asking, what's your problem with me? Kai could see that he looked much stronger than the guys in the guild. The man introduced himself, I am Light, a B-rank adventurer, let me tell you, I'm the one in charge of managing the guild branch in this city. Kai uttered a sentence to show his lack of interest when the man cracked his knuckles, looking fierce, saying, you are Siren, aren't you? Today you caused my subordinates to be miserable, didn't you? Kai calmly replied, they started it first. The man named Light pointed at his face and shouted, don't lie, I heard an unknown newbie appeared and beat up my subordinates. Kai just calmly replied, I understand. The man angrily rushed forward, shouting, I won't hesitate anymore, I will teach you a lesson. He swung his fist towards Kai. He gently dodged the attack from the man. This guy swung his arms wildly, but none of his attacks landed. None landed at all, Light shouted, not yet, then he swung his leg and kicked. Kai gently swept his leg, the man lost his balance and then fell to the ground. Kai calmly pointed out each flaw in the man's attack method, your speed is also fast, but not very refined, your movements are too big, revealing many weaknesses. Light didn't give up and jumped to attack, what did you say? Kai grabbed the man's arm. He gently twisted the man's arm behind his back and then pressed him to the ground. His face was calm with a hint of surprise, it seems he's not used to fighting humans, anyway, the adventurer's main task is to conquer demonic beasts, isn't it? Light gritted his teeth, you bastard, with your strength, why did you even touch my subordinates? Kai immediately clarified, I said it before, it was just a misunderstanding, I'll explain it again from the beginning. The two then went to a restaurant. After listening to Kai explain everything, Light exclaimed in shock, I'm sorry, it's my fault. The man's actions drew the attention of everyone around. Light glanced at his subordinates with a warning look. These subordinates deceived me, it's my fault for not suspecting them anyway. The three thugs earlier were taught a lesson, kneeling down to repent. Light shouted and ordered them, apologize to him right away. The whole group trembled in unison, we're sorry, sir, the man shouted, not to me. Apologize to Siren, understand, causing the whole group to panic and turn to kneel at Kai's feet, yes, we are truly sorry. He didn't pay attention either and immediately got down to business, the misunderstanding was resolved so I don't care, other than that, I have a few things to ask. Light with a very happy expression said, forgive my rudeness, if you have any questions, I am very willing to answer them. Kai picked up the cup, and slowly said, you know, I'm a traveler. He did not hesitate to reveal his situation, the reason I registered as an adventurer is because I want to earn some money so I can travel easily, but I have another reason. Light was eating while wondering, you have such a formidable power, we don't know what difficulties you are currently facing, can you tell us what you want? Kai took a sip of water, he said. I am looking for a way to travel to another world. Light and his companion shouted in unison, traveling to another world. The other two turned to each other with a skeptical look, wondering if that was possible, but the hero candidates also came from other worlds, right? Kai continued, you are right, I am talking about how hero candidates travel back to the real world. Light stroked his chin thoughtfully, if so, it must involve magic, right? Well, we don't know much about magic. I know it's not easy to get this information, I'm hoping everyone has some clues. Light scratched his head and said that there was only one person with knowledge of it, Sage Albana is probably the right person, isn't he? Kai's eyes lit up with hope, Sage. Light said, don't you know that there's an elf who has helped this country with his valuable advice? Now he remembered, wait a minute, I think I've heard this name somewhere, so that's true, a dead elf sage, that's what I read in the book. Kai thought, there are rumors that elves live deep in the forest, only a few elves have survived and their stories are considered legends, they rarely leave their forest and go out into the outside world, among those who leave there and go out into the outside world, there is one called Sage. Light did not hesitate to share the information he knew. I heard that he has lived for more than 100 years, furthermore, he is very wise and has extensive knowledge. He is said to be a famous sorcerer and truly knowledgeable about spells. Kai sat with a contemplative look. Spells, elves are known to maintain a close relationship with spirits to receive help with magic, even if there's no way for us to return to the old world. He had a thought, but if there were spells, it would be entirely possible. The one-eyed young man suddenly stood up and asked, but is Sage still alive? I've never heard any rumors about Sage, furthermore, it seems like no one has ever seen him. Light burst out laughing. I don't know either. Light expressed his regret to Kai. Sorry for not being able to give you any useful information, he quickly replied. No, that information is very helpful. Kai drained his cup and said, for me, that's enough. Finished, he got up and asked to leave. It's late, I have to go back to the inn. Suddenly Light called him back. Hey, before you go, can I ask you a question? He wondered, what are you going to do after knowing how to travel to another world? Kai smiled and replied, that, I'll let you imagine. Then he turned and left, leaving the four people with blank faces. A few days later, in a morning, the female employee brought Kai a pile of silver, saying, yes, this is the reward for this mission. And didn't forget to say thank you for working hard. Kai thought to himself, a week has passed, during that time I also saved a sum of money. Light and the one-eyed young man ran over to invite, Siren, have you finished the mission? Let's go drinking. Kai immediately refused, I'm sorry, but not today. Light looked at him and sighed, what a boring boy, see you after Siren. Holding a piece of paper in his hand, Kai was walking and thinking. He had gathered some information about Sage, looking at the map in his hand. Kai learned some information about the current location of the Sage. His name is Manhwa. About a decade ago, he was an advisor to this country, but he has now retired and lives around the western border, that is where this country is fighting against the Demon Lord's army. He seemed to have oriented his next step, his eyes were full of determination. I no longer have any reason to stay in this city, let's try to meet this so-called sage. At the Holy Temple City. Alpha, in a room, four people are sitting and discussing with each other. A person with purple hair said, ahem, so it's been a month since I've been responsible for taking care of the hero candidates, replacing the deceased saintess. This person's name is Heinrich, a holy knight of the 8th Knight Legion. Midu replied, nothing special either, because Heinrich-san has done a very good job. Henrik smiled radiantly, hearing those words makes me very happy. In any case, you are invaluable assets of this country, I am just showing respect for you. Mireille replied, thanking him for his concern. She thought he was very different from Leonora but also very suspicious. Henrik turned back to the issue of sending people to the front lines. Now let's talk about the main issue. You see, yesterday's meeting decided that the hero candidates would be mobilized. The atmosphere became more tense. Midu spoke up, so finally it has been decided, right, so can I understand that you want to send us to the front lines? Heinrich's eyes sank, that's right. He pointed at the map and said, first of all, there is still war on the western border. You will be deployed to a fortress on this front line, the kingdom of Veldora, the holy kingdom of Diagrest. Midu didn't intend to resist the order, but he had a condition. I understand, but Heinrich-san, as you promised. Heinrich immediately nodded in agreement with him. You mean to protect your friends who aren't strong enough to fight, right? I will keep my promise. Midu gave a weak smile, thank you very much. Heinrich also had a condition, however, during this time, we will also give them some work. After all, you have to work to eat. Midu's face clearly showed worry when thinking about his friends. He replied, yes, I think that will be good for them. Mireille asked, when do we depart? Heinrich winked, it's quite urgent, so we might depart tomorrow morning. Please relay the information to everyone so they can prepare. After the meeting, Midu and Meyer walked together. Meyer said happily, I'm glad they accepted our request. Midu also sighed with relief, you're right, at first I was afraid my requests were a bit excessive. Mireille affirmed with certainty, I'm pretty sure they don't have enough confidence to control us without Leonora, that's why they're being humble. Yes, because Leonora-san was killed, they will definitely be wary. She sighed, I don't know where he is now. Midu recalled the past. After Leonora was killed and Shinju left, everyone at that time was extremely shocked. The saintess was killed. The Pope was extremely shocked at that time. Who could have killed the saintess? Rina firmly asserted that the culprit was Shinju Kai. He was one of the hero candidates. Everyone couldn't believe it. What? No way. The Pope, with a worried expression, asked, where is he now? Rina, her expression extremely displeased, said, he ran away, he's a traitor, so he ran very fast. The guards murmured, if this is true, we must send people to investigate as soon as possible, or we need to confirm whether the saintess is really dead or not. The Pope said with suspicion, ran away, huh, it seems this story is very beneficial for you guys. Erasure angrily cursed, what did you just say, you old man? He implied, I don't want to deny your story, but there's also a possibility that you are all working together to kill Leonora. Midu's mood at that time was terrible. A soldier quickly explained, that's not it, Your Excellency the Bishop, I was there and witnessed everything. He pointed at the hero candidates and said, the hero candidates standing here tried very hard to protect the Saintess, but they were suppressed by Shinju and as a result, the Saintess was killed. Another soldier also stood up to confirm, he's right, I've seen everything too, me too. Seeing so many witnesses, the Pope was a little surprised, how? Then, he was forced to change his mind, if her knights said so, then I will believe them, but that person named Shinju, is he very strong? Midu unhesitatingly said that he was very strong, he had been hiding his abilities all this time. Things seemed to be going in the right direction, the Pope suggested going into his room to talk, I understand, let's talk about this in more detail in my room, one of you come with me, yes. In a corner, Rin was secretly using her power, it seems her domination magic is working. Midu looked towards her position, his eyes as if saying, thank you Kanzaki-san, somehow, we got through this. It seemed that all the hero candidates were hiding something, Midu just stood there in a daze. Suddenly Mireille asked, are you still worried about Shinju? It's useless to worry about him. Midu gave a weak smile, you're right. Then, the two of them walked silently. Midu thought to himself, Shinju sacrificed himself for me, even though I decided to protect everyone. He clenched his fists, silently. Following Mireille, in the room. Midu stood in front of everyone to announce, they have decided to mobilize us to the front lines. All those capable of fighting should prepare and leave this place tomorrow morning. The candidates who received the notification were extremely worried, the real battle has finally arrived, I'm so worried, just as I thought, I'm scared to death. Rina feigned indifference, what the hell, it's a bit late to be scared now, you two have decided to join the fighting group, haven't you? The two youths were embarrassed, even if you say so. Shirori asked anxiously, they won't push us to the front lines alone, will they? Midu came forward to explain, along with the Legion of the 8th Knight and Captain Heinrich, we are assigned to be under their command. Rin suddenly asked him, Midu-kun, is there any news about Shinju-kun? Midu shook his head dejectedly, they're offering a reward for whoever catches him and have mobilized a lot of forces to hunt him down, I still don't have any news at the moment. Rin's eyes showed disappointment, I understand. He was a little worried when he saw Rin's sad look and called her back, Kanzaki, on the contrary. Rina was very angry, she said, I don't care if he betrayed us or not, the flames in her hand were burning brightly, if I find him, I will burn him to pieces. Rin sadly looked out the window, always thinking in her heart, Shinju, you should have let me follow. At this time, in the deep forest, there was a group of people riding horses, the soldiers riding horses were all wearing white royal uniforms. No one said a word to anyone on the way. They went in a straight line and kept going. Meanwhile, Erasure still wore a displeased face. At this time, Kaori was exhausted from the long journey, I'm so tired, can we rest for a bit? Hearing this, Hashimoto immediately said, we just had lunch, it seems we have to walk until dark. Chao also began to complain, what have we done in the past 2 days besides walking, I'm starting to get a little bored, hopefully something interesting will happen. However, at this moment, a hand went up and a voice said, stop. Everyone immediately obeyed the order, Chao stood ready to fight and turned to ask Arashizan if something was wrong, he paused for a long time. Then he began to notice the grass along the roadside and said, I can feel the presence of the mythical beast behind the bushes. Hearing this, everyone was extremely panicked. While everyone was worried, the cavalryman ran up to him and snarled, hey, why did you suddenly stop? Hearing this, Midu quickly replied, sorry, but I felt a mythical beast was present nearby. The cavalryman didn't feel anything, he looked around and said, where, I don't see anything, and then he shouted, even so, you didn't follow our orders, without our orders, you're not allowed to do anything. Seeing the other guy's loud voice, Erasure was furious and asked, what did you just say? Then, a second later, he quickly grabbed the cavalryman's neck and lifted him up. He lifted him higher and higher, the guy was struggling to breathe so he could only stammer one word at a time, you're. Seeing the tense situation, Midu immediately advised Erasure, stop, Erasure. But Erasure was very stubborn, he wouldn't let go and said, why should I obey the orders of this trash? However, at this moment, there was a very big movement. Erasure glanced and cursed, damn it. At this moment, he let go of the cavalryman. The cavalryman hit the ground, then tried to catch his breath. The scene at this moment was exactly as Erasure had predicted. They would be unexpectedly attacked by a mythical beast. If they stubbornly continued, they were large rabbits with long claws. The soldiers quickly recognized them and shouted, "It's razor hairs, they're here, everyone get ready to fight." Immediately the rabbits rushed up to attack the group. One of them, at this moment, kicked its claws and flew up high. It approached a soldier and opened its mouth, growling. Its claws had now touched the soldier's sword. It quickly knocked the soldier's sword away. The soldier looked at the sword and said in terror, "Oh, no." The next second, it got close to the glowing eyes. The soldier on the ground could only stare as it approached him. A loud explosion erupted. That razor hair was immediately burned to ashes by the flames. The one who attacked the rabbit was Erasure. He used his magic to attack it, thereby helping the soldier avoid danger. A second later, it was completely gone. Erasure just stepped on it directly. You used one leg to hold it down, much to everyone's horror. Even the sharp-eared rabbit standing nearby didn't dare to charge, fearing they'd meet the same fate. The ruined soldier stammered, "Thank you for saving me." But he just replied, "You trash, don't you dare get in my way." Then he put all his strength into kicking the next one. The next one too. One after another, but they were really too many. Erasure wasn't fazed and continued fighting. Gao stood there and exclaimed, "Arashi-san is so strong." Kenta, also very proud, replied, "I feel like this destructive power is even more intense than last time." Seconds later, he had taken care of them all, but in his heart, Erasure thought, "It's still not enough." His expression became uneasy. Erasure thought this ability was nothing compared to that bastard. Then he remembered a time before. In front of his eyes was the scene of Kai shooting Leonora. Witnessing that, he could only say, "Damn it." Then she fell, her eyes not closing, looking towards Kai. Erasure, angrily thinking, "Damn it, that bastard again." He admitted from the start that he'd had a bad feeling about him. Remembering his school days, Erasure had bullied Kai, but what always surprised Erasure was that he never showed any fear. Erasure thought to himself, be exact, he'd never had any reaction to him. Kai just coldly replied, "I'm sleepy, what do you want?" Arashi's emotions reached their peak when he remembered that day and then shouted, "You dog." The moment Kai fought back, Erasure could only think that he was really strong. Then he remembered the techniques he'd used with the explosion ability he'd received. He'd been very boastful then, asking Kai, "What do you think of my explosion?" In his heart, Erasure thought, "I think I've become stronger." Back in the present, Erasure suddenly said, "How annoying." His unusual behavior made Midu wonder and ask, "What's wrong, Erasure? You haven't seemed to be in a good mood lately." But he just responded indifferently, "Nothing." Seconds later, Erasure continued, "It's just that I don't like being ordered around by trash." Around the western border of the digressed holy nation, the fortress. This place had the strictest protective walls. Even the guards were extremely cautious. Amelia said grandly, "Thank you for coming, heroic candidates, 4th Legion Holy Knight Army, Captain." Then he introduced himself to them, "I am Amelia, the captain of the Knight Army on the western border, although I was only promoted recently." Heinrich immediately asked, "What happened to the head of the surveillance agency?" Amelia replied, "He passed away a week ago." Amelia enthusiastically welcomed them, "Well, I really want you all to rest after a long journey," but before he could finish speaking, something happened. A soldier rushed in to announce, "The Devil's Army is coming, they're advancing here." Amelia looked at Midu's group and said, "As you've heard, we don't have time to rest, I will put my faith in you." He quickly followed up, "I understand." He gathered everyone together and gave the order, "Everyone, prepare for battle." And right now, Erasure excitedly said, "Let's go." The soldiers guarding the city wall took turns ringing the alarm bells. "The Devil's Army is coming, they're here." According to their sight, they were very close now. What was special was that they were all demons with monstrous, gigantic bodies that ordinary people couldn't resist. At this moment, they were only looking at them through the city walls, but looking at the monsters, they couldn't help but exclaim, "Too many." Right now, Heinrich growled and shouted, "Fire, quickly reduce their numbers before they get closer, by order." Immediately, the soldiers stood in rows and drew their bows. Another army used magic to attack them, chanting, "Heavenly Fire, please heed our call and defeat the evil forces." At this time there was the order to fire. Immediately, thousands of arrows along with fire shot towards the demons. They were pierced by thousands of arrows and burned by fire, but even so, they were determined to charge and kill them all, to wipe out the humans. Midu was very surprised at this situation. They still didn't retreat after being shot at like that. Seeing this, Amelia explained, "These things aren't enough to kill them, don't underestimate their durability and endurance, compared to them, we humans are too weak." Midu was a bit hesitant now. "What should we do now?" Then, Amelia turned her horse and prepared to go down to support. She said to Midu, "You guys follow Heinrich's orders, we'll go down there and fight alongside the 4th Night Army." Although Heinrich was also very worried about Amelia's safety, he just had to wish her luck. "That's what we wanted to say, but some missing people here have already gone down." Hearing that, he was a little surprised. Midu was still bewildered. Rina spoke up and said, "If you're referring to them, they've already gone down." Her words made Midu panic and ask again, "What did you just say?" Suddenly, a burning fire appeared. One of them saw this scene and panicked. "What's happening?" Right now, Erasure emerged from the smoke caused by the fire just now, only to see him with an excited smile. Erasure and some others went down to support the soldiers. The monsters saw this and gloated, "Idiot, who do you think you are that you dare to rush down here alone?" Then there was an explosion. Erasure with an excited look said, "I don't care if you're half demons or whatever." The next second, he threw out a burst of flames, causing the mythical beasts to retreat in fear. At that moment, Erasure said, "I just need to erase your existence." Suddenly, stones appeared and poured down. The monsters had entered the city before the bewildered guards. Then they continuously threw punches at the guards, sending them flying. On this side, a tall pink one was using a golden axe, raising it high and about to bring it down on the guard's head. With a loud slash, it seemed the guard would die, but the one who died was the monster. It collapsed to the ground. The guard looked up, disbelieving that he was still alive, and then stared blankly at Midu, who had saved him, and called out, "Hero candidate." Midu had luckily arrived just before this monster could act. At this moment, all the monsters turned their targets to Midu. Quickly he used the Heaven Sword spell to expand. Immediately the sword in his hand doubled in length. Then his eyes lit up. Wherever the sword passed, the monsters bled. None of them remained intact before his sword blade. At this moment, Midu raised his sword and said to himself, "I can do it, my power is getting stronger and stronger." Quickly he looked at everyone and encouraged their spirits. "You see, we can win this battle, fight and don't be afraid." Hearing this, everyone seemed to find the truth and spoke in unison. For him in battle, the most important thing is the spirit, so Midu told himself not to hesitate. This battle is not only his, but also many people participating, so he is even more determined. If he hesitates, they will feel uneasy. He is the commander. In this moment, Midu silently recalled, Kai taught him the cost of being naive. Just at this moment, Hashimoto stood on the wall and used his ability, his extrasensory perception, and called out, "Everyone, don't just stand there watching, we have to fight." As for Rina, she used the burning flames to fight, then shouted, "Burn them all." And this pink-haired girl used the domination spell to stop the monster from approaching her, pointing at it and ordering it to stop. The battle between humans and beasts broke out fiercely. In general, the monsters had a much larger number, so they had to be flexible in fighting, otherwise they would be in danger. But in a blink of an eye, hundreds of monsters were injured, even some were not intact. The guard standing guard on the city wall couldn't help but admire, "So this is the power of the hero candidates," the other one replied, "They are overwhelming the devil's army." At this moment, Heinrich growled and ordered to protect the hero candidates, "We must repel the demons." They immediately obeyed the order, then rushed down together. After a while, the monsters were completely defeated. Everyone was exhausted, everyone was. He gave his all to this fight. At this moment, Amelia raised her sword high, proudly saying, "The devil's army has been defeated, this is our victory." Everyone cheered with joy. And so a long day ended. Victory smiled upon them on the hill. At this moment the corpses of the monsters were countless. Midu looked far ahead. Suddenly, a female soldier appeared. She came over and asked, "Is this your first battle? How does it feel?" Midu immediately shared without hiding, "It's hard to fully grasp. A battle of this scale requires a certain amount of skill. In the battle, my vision is very small so I can't decide anything." Seeing that, the girl immediately approached, placed her hand on his shoulder, and comforted him, "You've done very well, today we won thanks to your efforts." However, she still didn't forget to remind, "But always be careful, our enemies today are only low to medium-level demons." The girl said that, although their number was limited, the high-level demons had different powers. Hearing these words, he hesitated for a moment, then, after a second, Midu resolutely said, "I will remember." As night fell in a place with countless earth buildings, resembling nests tens of meters high, that was the location of the monsters. They had lost this battle, so their numbers were very few. Afterwards, one entered the hall to report to its leader about the results of today's battle. It apologetically admitted its fault, "That is my report, I couldn't fulfill my mission, I'm sorry." Hearing this, the leader was extremely angry. The leader of those monsters was the highest-ranking executive in the Demon Lord's army, the 4 heavenly kings of the earth, Stonehenge area. In the digressed holy nation, the western area had a picturesque scene with mountains all around, and especially, there was a stream below, creating an extremely beautiful landscape. This place was the great forest of Ekot. At this time, Kai was walking alone deep into the forest. On his back, he was carrying a lot of things, which looked very heavy. Kai muttered to himself, soon, I will leave this forest and also end the long journey of finding sage. As he finished, something moved past him. Immediately, numerous things like vines with pink bodies shot towards Kai. Those things rushed towards him like missiles, but Kai still managed to dodge. He looked at those things and thought, too fast. At this moment, Kai thought, but what is that? Kai glanced to the side. Suddenly, 3 chimpanzees with large bodies and super long tongues appeared somewhere. Kai's eyes lit up, and then he used his assessment ability. At this moment, the information panel also displayed some basic information: monster name, tongue monkey, age, 33, gender, male, attack, B, defense, C, agility, B, strength, C, magic, F, status, hungry, stimulated skills, level 3 tongue attack. Quickly, he threw his backpack to the ground. Then, he held the knife in his hand as a weapon. At this moment, one approached, retracting its tongue and slowly walking towards where he was standing. Then, a second later, it stuck its tongue out far. Kai quickly dodged it. Then, another one quickly approached, opening its mouth in front of him. Not letting it attack him, Kai quickly retreated backward, and it tried to grab him but couldn't. Kai quickly jumped away from its sight. They gathered to grab him but were one step behind. One didn't give up and continued to stick out its tongue. He quickly used the knife he was holding and, taking advantage of the opening, split its tongue into 2. It felt its tongue had been cut and cried out in pain. But Kai quickly dragged a long line on its tongue, making it hurt and wanting to retract its tongue but couldn't. It also didn't give up and used its hands. But its speed was judged by him to be too slow. At this moment, he didn't hold back and chopped off the monkey's head with one blow. A second later, the monkey fell, disoriented. One had already fallen, but there were still 2 of them standing there, looking at him hesitantly and not daring to approach. Seeing that, he made a suggestion: what's wrong? If you don't come here, should I come and catch you? The result was that there were no more living ones. He looked back at them lying there, wiping his hands and thinking, although it wasn't too fast, stronger demonic beasts keep appearing. Is it because I'm getting closer to the demon lord's territory? But Kai also thought, or is it because this place is quite far from the city, and there aren't many knights and adventurers? After dealing with them, he quickly took his backpack, put it on his shoulder, and continued his journey. As he walked, Kai was a little worried. The deeper he went, the greater the chance of unknown demonic beasts appearing. Anyway, he could still know the age of these demonic beasts thanks to the assessment ability. Currently, he needs to be more vigilant. After walking for a while, he was now standing at a cliff. He observed and assessed the place. This was the Urugano mountain range, a natural defensive barrier that slowed down the invasion of the demon lord's army. His eyes became extremely serious. Focusing on the high mountain range in front of him, Kai thought, the highest point of that mountain range is called the Dead Mountain of Lang. It is rumored that Sage Elbana lives on the top of the mountain. A second later, he quickly continued. As he walked, Kai tried to remember. If I remember correctly, there is definitely a small village at the foot of the Dead Mountain of Lang. And now, as the sun set, Kai stopped and looked ahead. Suddenly, he was a bit surprised and called out, wait. In front of Kai, a village was engulfed in flames. At that moment, Kai panicked and ran towards it, thinking to himself, don't tell me they've been attacked by the demon lord's army. The houses were all surrounded by fire. And there, 2 demons appeared, being aggressive, each holding a sword and casually taking the lives of the unfortunate villagers there. Then Kai climbed up high, looking down, and secretly calculating that this place was quite far from the front lines. I must be careful in the future. He remained on the rooftops, observing. In the meantime, the first demon said, what will we do after this, Hector-sama? The other one followed, even if we massacre them, it's okay, right? But then another one appeared and interrupted, no, stop there, we'll take them as slaves. Besides, it was the third one that appeared and gave orders to the other 2. Have you gotten any information about Elbana yet? The first green one quickly provided information. Yes, we do. It seems that the sage is living on the top of Mount Lang, son of death. Hearing that, the one giving orders continued with satisfaction. So it matches our intel. Annoying, but whatever. Its eyes looked up towards the high mountain range nearby. While looking, it said, our top priority right now is Elbana Carrot, also known as the Sage. After resting here for a night, we will climb that mountain. But one of them objected a bit and said, but isn't that mountain known to be the lair of the death wolves? The rhino-like monster replied, but the wolf monsters are impossible to tame, we won't be able to achieve our goal unless we eliminate them. The one next to it asked foolishly, why? The other one quickly explained, when facing a high-intelligence demonic beast, domination magic is almost useless. They continued to discuss, I heard the 4 heavenly kings tamed a dragon before, but that's impossible for us. At this point, the leader interrupted, saying, I'm not good at magic either, anyway. It's useless to keep talking about what we don't have, and our only option right now is to eliminate these untamable demonic beasts, right? They seemed to have finished their discussion, and they raised their hands, saluting and replying in unison, yes. All the events were carefully observed by Kai. It seemed like they were very obedient. Could that guy be a high-ranking demon? Besides, the demon's name is Hector. The system displayed some basic information, name, Hector Einsweiss, age, 25, race, high-ranking demon, gender, male, attack, B, defense, B, agility, A, strength, B, magic, B, status, normal, skills, domination magic level 1, swordsmanship level 5. Knowing this information made Kai even more cautious about him, so he was one of the very few high-ranking demons in the Demon Lord's army. It would be very difficult to confront him directly. With the sensitive intuition of a leader, Hector Einsweiss quickly realized someone was watching. When he glanced over, Kai had already managed to hide. But Hector Einsweiss immediately ordered the others to search around the area. Hurry up, someone's lurking around here. Kai stood behind the wall and thought to himself, his senses are very sharp. They searched with harsh voices, where are you, human, come out. But no one was foolish enough to speak. Kai had successfully escaped their sight. While walking in a crouch, he thought, too bad for them, I'm very professional in stealth missions. There was an event that caught his attention. In a corner, there were many people being held captive by the demons. Kai thought carefully. From the high wall, he quickly descended, walking quietly and swiftly. Kai decided not to get involved in this. I'm sorry, but I have no reason to help you villagers, like those demons. My main goal is to meet the sage. Having said that, Kai quickly advanced towards the mountain ahead. Kai must be one step ahead of them. I must climb the mountain earlier than the Demon Lord's army.